Hey guys, this is Bill Combs
and Jeff Newton,
and this is the Flashbang Creative Podcast.
Back everybody, here we are, Jeff and Bill again. Today we are going to dive in and talk about payment processing.
Strap in, this one gets a little bit deep, but it's not as complicated as it seems on the surface.
Yeah, and stick around to the end because this is going to be an education on one of those black magic smoke and mirrors industries, and I guarantee you you will be in a position of power and you will be in the negotiating seat to put that money back in your pocket as opposed to whichever vendor you're presently using. So with that, let's just dive right into it, Bill.
All right. Well, after lots of discussions with individuals out there and managing the websites for a lot of websites now, we've found a commonality, and a lot of businesses out there, firearms-related businesses, tend to be conducting their transactions through PayPal. And I don't really know why. I think I know why, and I'll hit on that. But first off, PayPal is not a firearms-friendly business. And, for legal reasons, I would advise everyone to check out their terms of service because they are not a firearms-friendly business. As a matter of fact, why don't you try Googling PayPal and gun businesses or gun sales? And they have and will freeze accounts if they find out that that particular account belongs to a firearms-related business. So to put all of your eggs in one basket, which PayPal's a great company, don't get me wrong, but it does not align with our values in our industry. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what makes America great. But and as a business, they have it's their choice to decide which businesses they don't have relationships with. And so to put all your eggs in one basket, especially that basket, is not only a poor choice, but their fees are pretty high. Now, I want to get into why I think that most people go through PayPal, and I don't have any facts to back it up, but I do want to throw out a warning here. If you are using the PayPal friends and family or whatever they call it, where you basically bypass the fees, it's basically a wire transfer. That is asking for some serious trouble. And so let me just hammer this point forward. And this isn't fear-mongering or me trying to scare anybody, but you are already, if you are a firearms instructor or in firearms sales or just in the industry in general, you are in a bastard industry. The banking industry, most individuals in Washington politics don't like you.
Yeah, just Google Operation Choke Point if you want to read anything about how they try to backdoor the firearm world.
Seriously, that's a great right there. Definitely Google Operation Choke Point and find out how the past administration knew that they couldn't beat the Second Amendment folks. So what did they do? They went for the money. They went to the money. They leaned on some of the big banks. Obviously we bailed some banks out, so the government's got a lot of leverage there, and told them, we don't want you to deal in the firearms industries anymore. Yeah,
so they increased the risk rating for any business that dealt with firearms, period. So, we know specific companies that lost their lines of credit overnight, and
businesses with pushing $1 million worth of inventory. A big gun store has a lot of overhead in both firearms that are in the store or en route.
Yeah, and the quickest way to drown them out and make them put the sign in the front yard that says for sale or closed is take the cash flow away. So that's what they did. We don't want to digress into that, but nonetheless.
Well, let me finish this out. If you are using the friends and family, that's essentially tax fraud. And, we already know, as, I'm sure most of us are somewhat conservative, that the IRS has targeted conservative groups in the past. And the fastest way to get your ass in a lot of trouble is tax evasion. The government doesn't like that, no matter which party. So I would highly recommend change your practices if that's what you're doing. And we're going to talk about a solution to this, to where we know of ways, we have a solution to get you firearms friendly merchant processing.
Yeah, payment processing, ability to take cards. So let's just take one step back before we, make this out to be like it's a massive sales pitch. Really what I want to do is walk you through my evolution with this particular segment of the market, which really goes back to the beginning in time of inalienablearms.com, our first e-commerce business in the gun space. So, just like anything else, you go to the bank, you set up your bank accounts, companies established, yada, yada. Almost exclusively, the first thing that they're turning around and doing is doing what? Offering you company credit cards. And then right behind that, they're asking, do you have merchant processing or payment processing in place? Why? Because everyone wants a cut. And so I don't even remember. I would say conservatively, probably 5 phone calls a month to the Inalienable Arms, or for phone number for Inalienable Arms.
Oh yeah, still.
And yeah, it continues, but it was probably worse initially because now we're getting taken off their list, and I'll give you how. But nonetheless, all of them would call, right? And they lead those phone calls with either, hey, we're the preferred NRA merchant processor, or hey, what's your rate because I think we can beat it, or here's no transaction fees, or here's a waived monthly fee, right? They just start confusing the hell out of you with an extremely confusing financial segment, I guess we'd call it. So what I wanted to do is kind of give you the key terms, and then I'll also give you the magic words to make them never call you again, because they won't be able to touch you.
You're going to take away their playbook.
Right. So, and maybe I'll just start with that so you'll actually keep on listening. So the magic words that you use the next time, and I want you to try this out, and I'd love to hear the stories actually if you do try it out, because I found it fantastic and comical, and I actually enjoyed solicitor phone calls for once. But as soon as those merchant processors call you, stop them in the middle of their spiel. Don't even let them start talking about it, because that's fun anyways. And just cut straight to the chase. And I want you to use these 2 magic words. I guess it's going to be in the form of a sentence, so it's more than that. But anyways, do you offer interchange rate plus, right? And the magic words are interchange rate plus. And what that means, and this is where it gets a little on the educating side. So even PayPal. So we were talking about that at the beginning. If you jump onto PayPal, go to their website, it's published right there. Here's the rates for business. It's like 2.9% or 3%. And not to just pick on PayPal, almost anyone exclusively is going to be somewhere between 2 and 3%.
It's the magic number.
And that's just the number that their industry has basically settled on, as far as the monopoly goes. And so it just looks right, like you aren't getting taken advantage of. And then they basically just negotiate, this fee or that fee or no fee, or here's your free credit card reader for your phone, or here's the terminal you can use at the cash register. At any rate, what you need to understand is behind the scenes, what's actually happening when it comes to merchant processing. So the company that acts as the middleman, that's your payment processor. And then the credit card companies, Visa, MasterCard, whatever, they set a particular buy rate is ultimately the industry term for it, which is what does the middleman get charged to allow that card transaction to go through their system. And that's a buy rate. And then the margin that they make, how they make their money, is everything between the buy rate and whatever percentage they sold you your account at. So let's just use easy math, because math hurts my head. Let's just say that the buy rate is 5% and you're getting charged 10%. So essentially they're going to make 5%. The middleman makes 5% of every dollar that rolls through from a revenue standpoint. That's how they get paid. And then the credit card companies, they aren't concerned with making money in that portion, because they're expecting to make money on all the other fees they nail you with, or the interest rates, or any of the other stuff.
Yeah, so they make money on the long term.
Right.
Basically it's a loan.
Right.
When you have a credit card balance, that's where the juice is flowing.
Right. So the key thing to take away is if you're currently running under an agreement that was sold to you as a flat rate percentage, or anything like that, you really ought to be listening most closely, because you have the most to gain from a money back in your pocket for doing nothing differently than you're doing right now. So that means moving forward, starting tomorrow, if you flipped over to a different provider that didn't do it that way, and just did everything else the same for the rest of your life, then you would get X percentage of those dollars spent back in your pocket regardless, just because you're going to be educated. So again, magic words, interchange rate plus, and then you figure out, how to negotiate from there.
And watch them pause on the phone. They'll pause and wonder, what the hell did I just walk into?
Right. You're not supposed to know about interchange rate. So for you to say that, you've essentially just stolen the power and the control in the conversation, and you're in the negotiating seat. So that's the fun portion. Most likely they'll take you off the call list, and it'll just be what it is. But nonetheless, the variable rate was one thing that I wanted you to understand, is that it doesn't have to necessarily be one of those fixed things. I'm not saying that all fixed percentage plans are the wrong thing. The one thing that I just wanted you to understand is that the going rate of 3% flat is not the best you can do. The other place where they really come after you and kind of tack in those hidden charges that really is just margin dollars out of your pocket are the variable fees that you can occur. So whether that's a 10 cents per transaction or 30 cents per transaction, or any of the other fees, period. Understand your fee schedule, because those don't have to be there if it's all negotiated correctly. And then also the service fees per month too. Some services will charge you, it's $30 minimum per month, or you have to run through at least $500 in sales first, otherwise you have to pay $50, or every company does it differently. But anyway, the long and short of all of this is that we've lived it and breathed it for 5 years in the e-commerce side on the other business, and as a result of working with instructors and these websites, we really saw the need and the opportunity to make this more transparent, make it more seamless, and just a benefit for you rather than getting taken advantage of. And then probably most importantly too is removing that risk factor of whether or not your middleman is 2A friendly, right? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be an administration driven thing. I mean, the firearms industry will probably always be a volatile one, because it's tied to emotions regardless of the audience. So what we did is we reached out to one of the national, they're one of the top 5 players in the space, and put together a partnership program that we would be able to bring out to our audience and offer them, again, a transparent, clearly understood, 2A friendly program where you can replace your current merchant processing platform or payment processing platform if you'd like.
Yeah. So what we've been doing is for the past little while anyways is trying to find this solution, and we finally came to an agreement on a provider. They're very 2A friendly, and we've spent some time negotiating terms with them to form an alliance. So after all of that, we're finally ready to roll it out. And this is by no means a big sales pitch or anything like that, or to be used as scare tactics. But the payment side of things, the merchant processing, is confusing, and it's out of most people's
the devil is in the details, and they use it against you. It's
out of most people's element, So what we've done is we've negotiated the terms, found, the supplier who's going to perform these transactions, and it's a reputable one, and created a packaged deal where if you are interested in stepping away from PayPal or whoever you're with, and I don't know why you wouldn't, because this is I don't want to say guaranteed, but we've yet to come across anyone so far who's been able to beat our rates, and it's seamless. We've handled all the details, and we would implement it. We would help all along the way so that it's not confusing. Fully transparent, of course. This isn't we're not a merchant processor, so it's not like we're the banksters or anything like that.
Yeah, all we did was put together the relationships and leverage it to create the opportunity.
We found a solution, tailored it to our industry, and partnered with a very reputable, big organization. So we put a bow on the package, and it's just another tool to add to your toolbox should you choose to help your business out.
Yeah, and the one quick question that you can ask yourself to put some type of value proposition on it is, everyone's revenue numbers are going to be different. So what you brought in last year, what you anticipate bringing in this year through a credit card processing component. Just take that and start running your percentages on it. So if your industry average is 3%, whatever 3% of the total revenue you run through your cards is, then that gap in between is the area of opportunity we would have to increase those bottom line profits for you.
Well, and we've had people who are over 4%. They're not with us currently, but we've discussed, our scenario with them, and they've it's huge savings for them. I mean,
and like I said too, the percentages and everything. There's also do you have minimum fees per transaction? Do you have monthly fees? Do you have service fees? Do you have optional payments or costs associated with it? So that's the part that we fully understand and can demystify. And again, not the sales pitch, just here's value that we're trying to bring to the community that we're creating.
And the other thing, it's obviously geared towards e-commerce as well. So there's a solution for what's called a gateway. We didn't really touch on that, so I'll go into it real quick. We're at 17 minutes right now, so we got a little bit of time. So let's say you have a website where people can check out, right? So you got a shopping cart feature. They book a class. They book a tactical rifle class, and they go into the cart. They click the checkout button. At this point, whether you realize it or not, they're no longer on your website anymore. They're in a gateway. It's a secure gateway. It's like it's a middleman who
they're just brokering the transaction.
Right. You outsource that, and you should, because you would never want the liability of having people's financial information or transactions taking place on your website. So no matter how big or small a business is, corporations, everything, they use a payment gateway because that is that certain business's whole purpose. They provide bank-grade security for the transaction to take place. So it also separates you from that. You will never be able to look into your records and find someone's credit card information or their personal information. So that separates your liability as well. So we've negotiated all of that. We have a secure gateway. We also have obviously the merchant processor now. So the whole wheel is complete in a turnkey package. And that was just something that we'd gotten some feedback on in the past, that people were going with a certain organization because it was the easy button. But it's not necessarily the right button, especially due to their rates, which are very high, and the volatility.
Right. What you'll kind of hear time and time again over the course of anytime you're interacting with us is, what have we already learned? Which failures or mistakes have we already made? What have we discovered and uncovered? And how can we shorten that gap for anyone else that wants to be a part of what we're doing? And so, we're always going to offer this type of, I would consider extremely valuable information to try to provide that shortcut for you.
Yeah, and I'll air our laundry here. If Jeff, feel free to edit this out if you don't want me to. But early on in our e-commerce business, we got burned hard with internet fraud. And what happened was when we finally made it, we're like, we're here, we've got it, we've got everything set up, let's sell some guns and stuff. Well, we started getting sales all in, it was one big day. I mean, it's like when we felt like we made it. There was a bunch of scopes being bought, because scopes, that's not a registered item, so it doesn't have to go to an FFL. And as it turns out, it was a huge burn. I mean, it was to the tune of...
We were potentially exposed for about $20,000.
Yeah, and so that actually equates to $40,000 because, you would be out the transaction to the consumer, and you would be out the merchandise, which then you've still got to pay the piper to your distributor. So it's double, because here's the thing about fraud. When you get hit by fraud, say on your personal account, your bank covers you, right? You're insured. No worries. You call them up and say, I did not purchase this $700 item. And they say, okay. And they reimburse your account. Well, then they've got a guy who he goes after the money. And the burden is always on the merchant. It's always on the individual or a company who made the transaction, and you're going to pay.
Yeah, especially if it's goods rather than services. Services has a little bit different stipulation, but either way, you're going to pay. In that instance, it was where the verified billing information didn't match the shipping information. So what they would do is they purchased stolen identities off the internet, 100 at a time for dollars or pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. So
and then would happen to be our website. They'd jump on our site and just go through the cards that they had purchased and hammer, ding.
Oh, and it was crazy. I mean, I learned a lot because I talked to the FBI about it because of the dollar amount and the fact that they were using the U.S. Postal Service's the shipping
the
entity. So therefore, it's a federal crime. But basically, for a couple $100 to a few $1,000s, you can buy someone's whole ID. And here's the kicker. It's mostly women. And the reason behind that is they have the biggest footprint in transactions. They're the ones that are buying groceries, getting gas. They have more transaction history than men, typically. And so that's really what alerted us is it was a few women that were popping up. And I just thought it was weird. And
and it was the same optic running through at a pretty high velocity. So, it was, I don't even know. We could count the number of lessons we learned in that extremely stressful 72-hour period.
And the moral of the story is we learned a lot about security settings and things like that. Normally when you join up with a company, a gateway, and they basically slap you on the ass and say, let's make money together. And that's it. Well, they don't tell you that you've got all these security settings that you can adjust. Well, we know how to do that, and we can help you guys do that. Especially us, shipping nationwide, our risk is probably a little greater than some of yours, depending on what else you do in your business. But we can definitely help out through hard lessons learned, and we weathered the storm, and we're just trying to share that knowledge so it doesn't happen because we didn't have anybody to ask about it.
Right.
Who are you going to call? Call another competitor, another gun dealer, and say, "Hey, how do you do this?" Yeah, they'll laugh. They'll laugh at you and slam the door in your face. And
about the same way they treat you at the gun counter.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we could go on an entire dissertation on merchant processing, payment gateways, and all of this. But
and the bottom line is, it's going to save you money if you just look at it objectively, and even if you don't go with our solution, we don't care. Again, we're not the bankers here. What we've done is negotiated an incredible deal to save our community money.
Yeah, knowledge is power, which was really why we even felt the need to dive off into this podcast the way we did too. Is if you've listened to it this long, you will have learned something significantly more important than you had before this. And if nothing else, and if you don't want to take any action today, just wait for that next solicitor phone call and just use those magic words, interchange rate plus, and just have fun with the conversation. I mean, if you don't want to save the money or do any other stuff, that's fine. But again, hopefully you maybe read back through or listen back through this and just understand all of those moving pieces behind the scenes, because it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be in a situation where they take advantage of you just because it's a highly regulated and highly confusing set of parameters.
And whatever you do, don't put all your eggs in the one basket that is not friendly to our community, because all it's going to take is for your account to be thrown on hold to bring a screeching halt to your business, and then you're going to have to act quickly to find a solution, and in haste, oftentimes you make a mistake. So, it might be a good idea to get out in front of it and maybe find another solution, whether that be through what we've done or through someone else. Either way, you've got the knowledge now.
Right. That's it for me.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. This was a pretty deep conversation. There wasn't really any training wheels on it, but if you have any questions, reach out to us. You can find us on our Facebook page, Flashbang Creative, on Facebook. It's a newer page, and there's a reason why. We wanted to stay in the shadows for as long as we could, so that we could do a little market research to find out if anyone else was operating in this space, which we haven't yet, and to stay under the radar so somebody else didn't jump out in front of us on the web development or managed services side. And so that's why it seems to be a fairly fresh page. And then also you can hop onto our website and send us a direct email from there.
Yeah, it's flashbangcreative.us, just spelled out.
Yep.
And then lastly, on Facebook, we've got obviously the Flashbang Creative page, business page, but then we are also creating a community there, a closed group, so that not just anyone can wander in. We're acting as the gatekeepers, and we're just inviting any firearms professional into that community where we can knowledge share and really just help each other advance the one overall cause that all of us are in this for. So that is the Firearms Professional Association. So you jump on Facebook and search for that, Firearms Professional Association. You'll find that group there and just hit join. And
the goal of that association, we have a lot of content in the works that's going to help you guys, our whole community. So not just firearms instructors, but firearms sales, distribution, the whole channel, to empower
FFLs
them,
and dealers, and
to find a way to gain more traction and increase revenue. I mean, that is our objective, is to empower the community. You guys are the educators, so you're on that front. What we want to do is empower the community.
Yeah.
So big, on that note, big things coming down the pipeline as far as content and value that you guys will be seeing, but definitely get involved in that association website, because that's where a lot of the content pieces are going to come out, the how-tos.
Yeah, and the step-by-step guides and any of the other stuff. And if nothing else, too, that'd be a great place to post your questions. I mean, the phone calls and the email was good, but that'd be a great place to post it, because if you've got a question, odds are at least one other person does too, and we'd love to be able to help you out.
Well, and the goal of it is not necessarily for us to always be the one answering. It's supposed to be a close-knit community where, we as a community come together and answer each other's questions. We don't have to be pitted against each other. We need to help each other out so that we're a successful industry, not just from a sales volume standpoint, but bringing new people, new individuals into this space to extend the life of the Second Amendment. Because if you're anything like us, you definitely know that it is under attack.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's all we have for reels this time.
Yep. See you next time.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys. To find out more, you can find us on Facebook at Flashbang Creative, or you can visit us on our website at flashbangcreative.us.